improving the internal control environment. Even if we put the capacity in the office of the AG to follow up, it still wouldn't deal with the real issue at the auditee level, which is the discipline and the ability to follow up on prior year audit findings. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, AG. In line with what you're referring to, how can we at best, in the determination of the performance of a municipality, you'd find out that the municipality itself does somewhat have those control mechanisms, whether through institutions which exist there. Maybe, for example, they would have the internal audit unit, they would have the audit committee in place, the risk related capacities and so forth. But there is less accountability, though you would have those kinds of mechanisms which ought to assist in terms of the build-up of improvement in as far as accountability is concerned. And how can we, looking into your 6 strategic areas, in enhancing the improvement of functionality at an institutional level, that is the auditees, making use of these kinds of institutions, their own existence, noting that they exist, they get paid, and value is far less than what they ought to somewhat be paid for. And that's one area. The second area becomes visible when we deal with certain institutions. Look into, we received a report of one other institution which is heavy on infrastructure, and this institution, its own performance is judged on its ability to provide a service which unfortunately currently has got a number of pitfalls on it, and you find the audit which refers to the performance outcomes without recognizing that failure. And you ask a question as to how on earth can you seek to minimize the actual judgment on the performance, having looked into the performance area, the performance report of such an institution, and you fail to capture the harm which is enjoyed by the population through the failure of the provision of a key service, which is the ultimate existence of such institutions. So the balance between the financial and non-financial information for your audit, and as well present that as an outcome which is going to be fair in the eye of everybody. You could amplify that by this bigger factor through a number of people who would ask this question: how can this institution get a clean audit, but it fails to provide very minimal in terms of its own outcomes? There are, you find in the area, the roads are not in order, electricity trips all the time, the street lights are off for longer periods, and such an institution would receive the financial audit, which is clean, but the performance of such an institution does not give sight to that good work on the financial report which has been somewhat audited. How can the Office of the AG deepen the audit of such non-financial information so that we could create a balance between the two and therefore strengthen the capability of the audit outcomes of the Auditor-General of South Africa. So those are the kinds of things that maybe through your own strategy and as we oversight the office of the Auditor-General, we would want to firm those instances that relate to improving the performance, the image of the Auditor-General through these kinds of things, which probably the South African population ought to gain confidence on. I think something you referred to even yourself earlier on. I think those are the things that one would want to speak on. If you have a comment, AG, you are free to do so. I see a hand. Let me just check where is it coming from. AG?
Okay, thanks, Chair. So I agree with you. We have a wonderful opportunity to repackage, to rethink how we engage with the audit of performance information and how we report on it. Because many of the insights that you're looking for actually are there. We tend to put them in the management report, but there's no reason why we can't start thinking about making sure that in briefing yourselves that are responsible for oversight, you have the benefit of the insight that we've gathered through the work that we do. So I think there's about how do we tweak the audit work, but importantly, how do we tweak the reporting so that you get that level of transparency? Because that's how you're also going to be able to start engaging with those auditees around the substance of their annual performance plan. Because even if they're able to give you an annual performance report that's useful and reliable, and we can tell you about that because we have audited it, for as long as their performance objectives are not shaped in a way that's getting them to deliver on their designated mandate, we're going to continue to struggle with demonstrating that those public institutions are delivering in a way that's expected. So if you are able to sort out the rhythm of engaging with the substance of those performance reports and the performance plans, we'll be able to start winning. So it's definitely part of our work program, and we've heard you and we've heard you well. On the one about the control mechanisms and trying to make sure that internal audit committees, risk committees work well. One of the things we've done is publish a preventative controls guide, which helps the accounting officer focus on strengthening those players in the ecosystem, internal audit committees, but it also assists those in oversight to drive the type of conversation through oversight that allows them to get the accounting officer to worry about effectiveness of those functions. So that guide is available. What we'll look to do is see if there's opportunity to do more and similar guides, but even to elevate its usefulness and accessibility to those that are charged with oversight responsibilities. But on the part about performance information, we've heard you well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, AG. There's a hand from Ma'am Constance and from Honorable Singh and Honorable Kopane, as they would follow each other.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to make few comments on the presentation and to welcome the presentation of the Auditor-General. Firstly, to say that I repeat what I said now the other day, that their visibility has got a lot of impact on the broader community, the citizens, because now people are beginning to understand what is happening in their municipalities. And that includes looking at their presentation that about 186 billion vanished from South African municipalities in just 10 years. So I think the enforcement legislation which is available for the AG and the law enforcement to make sure that these monies must be tracked down, the bills must be tracked down, and people must be taken to account for that. I also want to note or to comment the office, especially involving like broad-based Black economic empowerment to where it is right now, because this has always been looked at, I mean, in our past history. Can I continue? Hello?
Honorable Kopan, don't disturb.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. I was saying that I want to commend the office for involving or maintaining the broad-based Black economic empowerment to the level where it is right now. And that has been happening for the 3 consecutive years. So it's very important for our country because we know our history that anything to do with finances or with such high offices or auditing companies has been a wide type of environment. And more especially when they also looked at the government's policy on 30% of Black women-owned audit firms, which are also empowered and are being taken care of. And I'm very happy, pleased on that. And we would like to say to the AG that is well done, and it's clear that there is a level of transformation. Want to say to you, do more. We appreciate the work which you are doing, and especially that now our people are beginning to understand the language of AG. Like, people didn't understand what is a qualified report. They think that when you get a qualified report, it means well done. And when you get unqualified report, it means you were the worst. So those type of terminology or languages, our people are beginning to understand. So those are the few comments from my side. Thank you very much.
Should I comment, Chair? Maybe, yeah, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Siapo Singwe, and thank you for commending us. I have heard you well. You're saying, let's make sure we sustain the visibility, the simplicity of our language, but also let's make sure we don't lose the focus on driving transformation and demonstrating that implementing the aspirations of transformation and the BBBE policy can happen in the context of clean administration, and it can happen with visible and sustained impact on the people that are intended as beneficiaries. And I think what we'll do is make sure that that remains a solid part of our strategy going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, AG. Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all colleagues and the AG and her team. Chairperson, please forgive me if some of the things that I may raise were raised in meetings that I did not attend. So I want to apologize in advance, but thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, I just wanted to know from the AG's office, the additional quote unquote teeth that have been given in terms of legislation with certificates of debt. What progress, what report can we receive in that regard? Because if you've been given the teeth, have those teeth been biting? And I think I saw a comment by somebody there, whether it was on Twitter or Facebook, that, we do not have teeth. So that's the one thing. And Chairperson, I think the very, very important point that you raised is the issue of, yes, municipalities and institutions may be audited and there will be comments, but when you check what's happening on the ground in terms of real service delivery, it's completely lacking. And I think in that regard, South Africans spoke, and they spoke very loudly on the 1st of November, for all of us to hear that they are getting increasingly fed up of lack of service delivery and corruption and wasteful expenditure, fruitless expenditure, etc. And I think the Office of the AG in particular has now the additional responsibility to ensure that we address the concerns of South Africans, let alone that politicians will have to do that at different levels. So having said that, Chair, the AG also said that in many cases of the smaller entities, they are clean. They are clean, but the bigger entities is where you find the problem. Now, one would think that in the bigger entities, they have the ability to employ more people in the financial management sector or divisions, more professional people, and one cannot understand why they are continuing to have problems, because it doesn't mean the bigger you are, the more problems you should have. In fact, the bigger you are, you should have less problems because you can employ more people to do the work correctly. So on the question of value for money audit, is it not a possibility that where you find that institutions and municipalities have been doing relatively well in terms of financial management, then you spend less time on looking at the financial management aspects, but start looking at value for money in those institutions, so that the public will see that you're moving away gradually from financial management to value for money auditing. And I think there will be some very, very interesting revelations when you go to value for money auditing, like we had during the COVID period, when we found that items were, prices were inflated 10, 20, 50 times more. So can that not be part of your strategy moving forward? Because you did say to the chairperson that, yes, it is on your radar screen, but perhaps we need to be informed of what details. Give us the details of this program, not today, but moving forward. How are you going to have this gradual shift from financial management, auditing of financial management, moving to value for money? Because I think that is going to instill confidence in South Africans, but do it in an incremental stage. So I just thought I'll make the general comments and find out, because, when you say local government is regressing, I mean, it doesn't sound good. When are we going to reach a stage when we say, well, they are improving and not regressing? Perhaps, Chairperson, I don't know, under your chairpersonship or this committee, we must suggest to, SCOPA and other committees and to National Treasury and to the financial accountant, etc., that there's a come together with SALGA and everybody else. So everybody is on the same page, meet for a week and drum in the issue of financial management and value for money. And perhaps that's what South Africa would need, some kind of comfort that something is going to be done about, these adverse audit outcomes that we get in many instances. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. AG?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Singh. 3 questions. On the additional teeth, we've got a session set up with yourselves together with SCOPA next week to give you feedback, specific feedback on how we're doing in implementing those parts, because I think it warrants a full conversation. There've been a few audit cycles and the volume, but also we've got to distill where things are. The municipalities, one of the things that we see is that we've got to help accounting officers understand how audit helps them solve their problems, not see audit as yet another additional headache, but rather embrace the audit process as one that actually helps them understand what to tweak, what to fix if they're going to drive better delivery, less leakage, better protection of resources.
Wednesday.
That's the task. So that's the task that we are setting ourselves in terms of shaping the type of engagement with accounting officers to help them see how audit actually helps them. And similarly, the one about value for money audits, we've heard your request to say, can we have a specific detailed program that shows the incremental shifts around value for money audits? So we'll make sure that we provide you with that. What I will offer as a quick response, because you gave the provincial treasury as an example, once they are clean, you don't have to spend such a great level of time auditing them, but you can have a useful conversation with them on their mandate and start to shift them towards doing good with the strength that they have. So that's one of the ways to do it. But I think I've heard your cry around the value for money audits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AG. These are pertinent matters, yes. We've already scheduled a meeting which is going to deal with those specificities, which we ought to take them forward. Are the matters that we need to worry about to ensure that we are moving in as far as the implementation of the Public Audit Act amendments. Honorable Kopane. Honorable Kopane. Ibana.
So, yes, Chairperson, can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and good morning, everyone. Firstly, let me take the opportunity to join my colleagues to appreciate the report that has just been presented to us. It also gave me hope to realize that there are men and women who are really willing to take our country forward. Having listened to the Auditor-General when she was presenting the report before us. Chair, one of the things that I read, that is the overview by the Deputy Auditor-General, where mentioning that there are still some pushbacks and intimidation. Apparently, the last few years, there have been regular obstructions, some pushback, intimidations against the staff to do their constitutional mandate. So I wanted to find out what is it that they do to protect the staff, because it affected the morale of the staff. I remember in some of the cases in the Free State where people were also end up being killed while they were doing their job. What is it that the office is doing to protect the staff? Because if really there's an intimidation to the staff, it clearly says that this is a serious problem that we need to deal with. If maybe the Auditor General can just explain what is it that they are doing to protect the staff regarding this intimidation. Are there any criminal charges that is being opened, or what is happening? The other thing, Chair, that I want to understand is the technological advancement. Definitely COVID has changed everybody's life forever. We don't know what the future holds for us. And definitely things have changed. So I want to find out his office, her office, in terms of how the COVID has affected them to do their oversight responsibility. And how ready are they, if maybe we stay in the same situation, to come with innovative way of doing things going forward? Are they ready in terms of how they are going to do things going forward if ever COVID will be there? What is it that they are prepared? Because definitely it has affected how they will do their oversight responsibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member Kupane. AG?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honourable Kopani. On the protection of our staff, we haven't had calls to register any criminal charges against anybody. The only, other than the instance where one of our staff members was actually shot at, but that was a number of years ago, probably about 3 years ago now. As things stand, we haven't had any of such instances. However, we are not complacent about it, because we know that the instances of working remotely over the last 2 years has reduced the tendency for people to intimidate our staff and threaten them. But we're not yet complacent. The things we're doing, I'd say, are threefold. One is we work very closely with the SAPs as well as with the leadership in different provinces to highlight risks and to make sure that we keep our staff safe. The second thing we do is we work very closely with the auditees themselves, the leadership in those auditees, so that the physical space where our teams are actually secured. The other aspect is also to train our staff around awareness for how to keep themselves safe. And it's not, we have to do that because we have to make sure that our teams are alert and know how to respond when they see any sort of threats. It's a matter that enjoys our continued attention, and it's something that, as I say, we're not yet complacent on, although there's been a reduction in those instances. Through COVID, so the last 2 years of operating under COVID conditions and lockdowns have really pushed our office. We've actually done more work in that time than ever before. So we've been able to innovate and operate differently and collaborate with our auditees to share information without physical contact, and to find different ways of conducting our work. We continue to learn on things that we mustn't go back to, and on things we must continue to do differently. But I think we've done quite well over the last 2 years of operating under these conditions. Unless I'm not sure if the DAG would want to add on to any of those two aspects.
Thanks, AG. I will, thanks, Honorable Chair. I'll add on the second one. I mean, like AG have said, we did a lot of work last year. We're obviously forced to work offsite, but like we all appreciate that they say you should not waste a good crisis. So out of us having to do a lot of work remotely, we find new ways of doing work. And that was the part I was talking to in the earlier presentation about our investment. So we found that we can actually access data remotely. And what that means is that you've got data, you've got access to the entire population. And instead of working on a sample basis, when you could go to an auditee and pick a sample, now our specialist data analytics are able to assist us in analyzing the entire population. So we are increasing our focus in terms of doing that in some of the bigger auditees. But we think that there will be a lot of benefits in doing it across the entire auditee population. So if you think about one of our goals, which is to change the culture through sharing the right insight and talking to some of the questions that were raised earlier in terms of value for money, some of these things using technology will allow us to do more with less and be able to share much more information. So we are hoping that even if COVID gets under control, we're not going to take our foot off the pedal in terms of leveraging technology to assist us to do much more audit and be able to provide better insight to yourself and other stakeholders. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, AG and JG. Gladly, members who have indicated to speak on the matters did ask and comment on the presentation by the AG, something which is somewhat a bit appreciable, where the AG strategy indicates the level. You see your graphic representation of some movements of auditees from where they would be viewed as so bad to be where they would have been somewhat at the level that is appreciable of their own value in society. That kind of a graphic presentation is indicative of a clustered location of the public sector institutions in the observance of both a good work ethic in as far as financial capability is concerned, and something which looking into where I come from, that it might be that what is being done at home to improve the level of education and observance of such absorption of such into the stream of governance, mainly at the local government level, might ring bells in the required improvement of standard of performance. We are still to see whether that would impact positively. It's our hope and wish that such things would be more appreciated for active participants, citizenry, which would make those who are part of a government to account, but to perform better as well. So AG, your draft strategy has been received by the committee. As you have had an opportunity for these discussions, engaged by the committee. What is left is that the committee would come back with a clearer indication on the area. Maybe so far you have picked up those areas which are areas of concern from our side, and therefore we will do likewise in terms of the improvement on the draft, of course, and thereafter would indicate on the implementation of the draft strategy going forward. So if there is and nothing else on this, I think we need to appreciate that there's one other area which then relates to gazetting your standard of performance as per requirement. Something which I think we need to encourage, as I have already had some discussion with the Minister of Finance on the permanency of the position of the Accountant General, who would somewhat enhance the observation of the standard procedure which is observed in terms of conducting such audits from the part of the Auditor-General's office, and the quick response when there are matters that need the intervention of Treasury, when there are areas which need some intervention by the office of the Accountant General. So there is a keenness to move towards that, because to be firm, fair, on track, you must ensure that those you work with and those who cause the effectiveness of your work are somewhat very responsive at all times, that you seek their ear on matters that could hamper your independence, and as well your effectiveness as the Office of the Auditor-General. So we're going to then get back to you after these discussions, which in terms of our program, we are going to meet soon to finalize all those matters and get back to you, AG. Thank you very much from my side. Is there any other thing, colleagues, before we close the meeting?
No, on my side.
That's it. 2, 3. It looks like, colleagues, we all agree that the meeting should go on adjournment. Thank you very much, all those who have been in attendance, and well appreciate your contributions, colleagues. And it's well off. Let's tighten things up and work together with the Office of the Auditor-General to make things work for the country and improve accountability, which is going to lead to ethical conduct at the end. So thank you very much, AG and your team, and thank you, colleagues. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you,
Thank
AG.
you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. I miss Mlenzana. Where is Mlenzana?
Mhlambe uthi kuthiwa i-network angithi usentabeni.
Oh, by the way, you better go stage 1.
Eh.
Yebo.
Thank you, Chairperson.